Wendy.
Morning, Rachel.
How's it going? How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Just hanging out at the office, having my tea.
Oh, I'm tea too.
Yeah.
I've been really into mint lately, and Gustav, my hedgehog, also loves mint tea. I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I had little stickers made.
Oh, that is so cute.
He's in like a little teacup with some like mint leaves. So
Yeah. I'm generally more of a coffee person, but I think I had a little too much today. My hands started shaking, so I'm like, I'm gonna switch to green tea.
Yeah. I also find that like tea, it's a little bit more like up and down, and coffee is much more spiky.
Yep, exactly. So if we had our original chat scheduled, I would be having coffee, but since it was moved, now it's tea time.
Yep, definitely feeling that. Yeah, so what are you working on these days?
I am working on, it's interesting because usually I work on more traditional Kaggle competitions. These days, I have been switching my focus a little bit and working on like newer topics in machine learning still for Kaggle competitions, because that's where I'm passionate about. Yeah, so because of that, I'm a little bit less busy and more into, researching on the technology and kind of like planning how different technologies, if they're ready for going into Kaggle competition yet, and if they're ready, how, and if we know how, then when.
So obviously you can't go too deep into details, but maybe things like reinforcement learning.
Yeah, that's a popular request, and that's definitely in the plans. I guess I can talk about like some topics. I can't share too much, not because I don't want to share, but also because I don't know a lot of things yet, because they're still up in the air. One that I am excited about working on is something like a GAN competition, and the other is reinforcement learning. There are a lot of interesting stuff out there. I think they're all very fun. I wanted to find something that's more, I guess, I wanted to find something that's like in the baseline is like it's easy for people to get into, even if they're not experienced in this topic. But at the same time, the beauty of Kaggle competitions is generally when no accidents happen, you can't just like directly solve a problem and get 100%. So we want to make sure that we don't design something that people can just solve within 2 hours and ruin the leaderboard.
Yeah, when I was in grad school, I did a lot of experimental task design for humans. And one of the things that can sometimes be a problem, especially with linguistics task, is like pulling people off of the ceiling. So like given like time and really good conditions, everyone will get to the top, and you know, like make it hard enough that you can stretch that space at the top and really see individual differences. I mean, I was looking at human behavior, and in this case, it would be differences in model behavior.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. And there's a lot of considerations that would go into these, because for example, it's like you don't want to make it too hard, because you want people to be able to have a small win in first like hour or half an hour. That's people's tolerance level, kind of. It's like if I try something for an hour and it doesn't work, I'm not gonna do it. Even I'm that way. So we want that, but then we want it to be also complicated enough that people can keep on working on it for at least a month or two, and not get to the top yet. So yeah, that's exactly where the time is spent. Yeah.
So what sort of, and again, I don't go into details you can't talk about, but what sort of evaluation metrics are you looking at for things like GANs? I know in NLP, text generation evaluation is just like
Yep.
There's no good solution.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. I think that's where I wouldn't say that's where the money is. I don't know where the money is. But that's where the struggle is. I think so far it seems like whatever type of topic, either it's image or text, there's not a consensus or an established metric that people could use other than having human raters. But even having human raters, you open another can of worms. So yes, I don't have an answer, but I think we're getting close to, there are different aspects of things. Like, for example, when humans examine, let's say, an image, text a lot better, but when people are examining something, it's like, oh, does it match like things that I see in everyday life? Does it look realistic? So that's like, I call it the saliency, kind of like the actual performance of the image itself. But for evaluating model, there's also a lot of consideration of how like, if you're only generating like the same type of cat and with the same angle and with the same background, is that really good? You're just generating one image. So there's a diversity of your model. Are you generating a diverse enough to show that you actually understand the topic that you're generating? The other thing is called model memorization. So are you just memorizing your training data? It's actually really hard to get around that, because even for papers that people are doing, it's not even a Kaggle competition where people try very hard to cheat. Even for paper where they have no bad intention, the model could just memorize things without people knowing. So even in research papers, these metrics remain kind of controversy, or there's no consensus in these. But we've narrowed down to a few things. So I think we'll have something experimental that is not going to be perfect, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Cutting edge.
Right. Yes, we're gonna cutting edge. So we're gonna ask people to cut us some slack, and not everything being perfect.
Yeah, that's exciting. So it sounds sort of similar to the like the precision recall trade-off you'd have in numeric tasks.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for it. Yep.
Yeah, so, and your background's in computer vision specifically, right?
Maybe, yeah. So I guess so. My background is electrical engineering, where I did medical image processing. Back then it was called image processing. Now it's more called computer vision. But then I switched to more like optics kind of stuff, like Monte Carlo simulation in my PhD studies. So I did more of like machine learning a little bit, and then I switched around a little bit to do more like photonics simulation for the second part of my thesis.
I don't know what that is, Wendy. I don't know what that is.
You don't know what it is. I don't think you should know. It eventually became messy. Yeah, so it's basically simulating like how photons will interact with tissues. So just throw in a large number and then have a simulated environment. In some way, it's a little bit like reinforcement learning, but not really. Yeah, it's something that I don't really want to look back on.
It's the Monte Carlo for the simulation parts.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yep.
I guess I just assume, since I know very little about computer vision or image processing, as I guess it used to be called, I just assume everyone else is an expert, and I'm just like wandering around being like, I saw a pixel once.
Yeah, the field has evolved so much that I feel like a lot of the things that I did back when I was doing it, it has been very different. I still vividly remember, like, I don't even know which year it was. It was like maybe 2007 or something. My lab mate was telling me like, hey, Wendy, like, I don't think anybody is doing neural networks anymore. Are you still doing, like, I was like, yeah, I haven't seen them in papers anymore. Maybe it's, out of fashion or something. I still remember having that conversation, how nobody's using that anymore. Maybe we should drop it. I just made a grand comeback. So yeah, so that was interesting. But that doesn't mean that I have been in the field so long that I know everything. It's like a lot of times I look into it and I'm like, I know this method, but it was called a different thing, and I didn't quite understand it back then, and now I have to get back to it, and like overwhelming.
Yeah. So what are the, I'm just going to selfishly use this to help me learn more about the field. What are sort of the major divisions within the field? Like, what are the major things that people are looking at? So for like NLP, there's sort of meaning things, that's semantics. There's sort of structure and relationships between words in a sentence, and that's semantics. And there's things like sounds, which would be phonetics and phonology. And I'm wondering what the similar sort of divisions are in computer vision, because again, I know next to nothing.
Yeah, I don't think I'm an expert in that either. I feel like the field is exploding, and I definitely feel like I can't keep up with everything happening in every topic. So I pick what I can study, and these days I have to say, because of my own interest, I'm focusing more on what people are doing with reinforcement learning and GAN. But again, I think when I see all these different infrastructures in convolutional neural network and the general deep learning field, I generally know what they're doing. People are still doing classification, still not perfect. Like nothing is perfect. People are still doing it. I think the segmentation still remain a difficult field for, especially now that everybody is doing self-driving cars. So still that remains a difficult field. It's still a lot of compute to do in real time. Like those are the main things, and we still get a lot of requests for competitions from companies to do segmentation, to do classification, more and more multi-label stuff, rather than, like, it has definitely evolved in the topic that people are looking to do, from two-class classification with still image, moving forward to more video, more real time, and vector-based, instead of like one image and tell me the answer, yes or no, kind of thing. Yeah.
Saying like, okay, frame 1, the B was here, frame 2, the B was here, frame 3, the B will be here, sort of prediction?
Yes. And a lot of segmentation is like, the car is here, tell me where are the trees, where are the pedestrians, where are the pedestrians heading?
Gotcha.
And, what is the sign? What is the sign saying? And things like that. Definitely move towards, because a lot of emphasis are on production now. So people are definitely caring more about inference time, inference compute constraints.
Keeping it snappy and not super expensive.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I didn't like vector. What did you say? Vector.
Oh, vector-based stuff is just it's nothing. It's not like revolutionary, but it's basically a transformation between the pixel-based to vector-based. It's kind of annoying in a sense that in reality, like a lot of the algorithms are done in pixel. So most people who solve the problem will just translate them. So convert the vector into pixel, and then do the processing and the recognition in pixel, and then convert it back to vector, which actually might not be the best case. And I don't even know if there are actually algorithms now that would do things in vector. You're probably required to do things in 3D, but that's probably the case that it should be. That, like, for example, if you see a view from your car and you have this world, and you're like, okay, here's a pedestrian, it's in XY of, pixel XY, and it's probably moving this way. And then you have the next frame. Everything is kind of the same. You just have to update a little bit. And if you have to redo the entire compute and then recalculate where this pedestrian is, because the entire pixel image has moved, it's kind of a waste. So if you can convert that easily by either reconstructing the 3D dimension, and then you only have this tiny little shift from x equals 1 to x equals 2, then you save a lot of time and you actually have more understanding of the space. However, that's usually not, like if you just take out of the box static image analyzer, that's not the case. So probably it'll require some part of that. And we're seeing the industry moving in that direction also.
Gotcha. Okay, I thought when you said vectors, you meant like tracing them in the picture, but I think what you were actually saying was like the image format, like an SVG instead of a JPEG.
Yeah, and also the annotation is very important. For the annotation, it's actually really hard to annotate them in vector. So that's very valuable for anybody that is annotating the picture. So one other constraint also for that our community doesn't see is how difficult it is to get the ground truth data and how to convert it into the format, or like the format. Yeah, like connecting all these things together. So there's data, there's the task, there's the metric, and the annotation. And annotation means money. So annotation is a lot of money involved. And the format of the annotation also is the money. So if you want a crappy annotation in a very simple format, then you pay less money. But is that what you really want for training your model? So yeah, there's a lot of, there's quite a bit of contradictory factors that we play in there.
And if people want to practice image annotation, I know Zooniverse does a lot of sort of like online crowdsourcing citizen science stuff where you can like spend some time annotating images and get a feel for that part of the process. I've done a lot of language annotation.
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually not checked it out. Have you checked it out?
Yeah, I did. I was really into a penguin counting one a while ago. I probably spent like a good couple of weeks just like counting penguins. I don't know, it's relaxing. You do it while you're watching TV or something.
Nice. So it's kind of like one of those like painting things or like coloring things that people do when they're bored, but instead of that, it's crowdsourcing for AI.
Absolutely. Making training data.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you get paid for it?
Nah. Well, it's for scientists who are working on projects.
Right. Yeah.
The public good.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we could do some of that and just like collect training data for playground competition or something.
Yeah, that could be cool. Give folks the whole overview of the process. Because one thing that sometimes people will complain to me about is that, oh, well, on Kaggle, they do all the data cleaning and annotation for you. And I mean, for competitions, that's true, but there's lots of data on the datasets platform that people have uploaded that a little shining.
Yeah, there's a reason that we don't do all the data cleaning for people, but we have to do some data cleaning for people because it's just, first, it's not good to let some data out just in the wild that is just not, like, do you want people to spend 20 hours cleaning data? Every one of them spent 20 hours, like why? There's also a lot of concern on, like, is this data even good for this task? So we have like a minimum line of like, it has to be at least to this level before we could release it. But sometimes even just to get to that level, like, yeah, sometimes it's like leakage concern. It's like, if it's not at this level, then there's a ton of leakage, you just can't do it. But sometimes even getting to that level is a lot of work. So yes, we do a lot of work for our community. So it's already at a certain, past a certain quality control. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's not like we like to do it. So it's like, if it passes that line, then feel free, just take it.
Yeah, you're not doing it for fun. It's so that the competitions are fair and doable. And
yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any research you've come across recently that has just been, or maybe a blog post or something that you've just been really excited by?
It's interesting that you asked because these days I'm excited about Dan's Kaggle Learn stuff. I think he's pushed out a lot of interesting Kaggle Learn courses. So that's actually what I'm spending my, free, it's not really free time. It's like free time at work. Like I have like 15 minutes here. Let's check out a new course that they have released. So it's not like shameless advertisement. I'm actually genuinely finding it pretty interesting that they're releasing these little things that I feel like I can learn something about.
Yeah, I really like the machine learning explainability one.
Yes, me too. I like that one a lot. Yeah. He's also, we're talking about some reinforcement learning stuff, and I found it very interesting that it's not traditional reinforcement learning, but I find it I find it a lot more relatable if it's like Kaggle-like and not video game.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of the stuff is very video gamey.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with video games, but after you see like 250 different video games, maybe not even different, and they're like the same video games, it's like, okay, yeah, it's like, can it be used in something that's not video games and more useful? So I'm excited about something that's more useful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Is
there anything else you wanna share with the community, or?
I think, let's see. I'm excited about the Kaggle Days conference that's coming up.
Oh yeah.
I think for me that's very exciting. I missed the Paris Kaggle Days, but I heard it was a blast, and I don't think I've ever experienced a pure Kaggle community, like very community focused conference. Like we would go to a conference and meet people and they're excited, or we give a talk. But I've never been to like a Kaggle conference, and it's like celebrating the community. Or I guess we have Kaggle Career Day, Career Con, but it feels very different. So I'm very excited about it. So just want to say that it's going to be in San Francisco. The next one is going to be in San Francisco. Is it April? It's like mid-April.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not even 100% sure when this video is going to be out. I think it's going to be before then. I will double check. Check edge. Yeah, I'm also really looking forward to that.
Are you going to be here?
I'm coming down. Well, I'm doing something at Next, and it's happening at the same time as Next. So since I'm in the area, I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's coinciding with Next. It's in the same venue as well. So okay, it's April 10th and 11th. No, it's 11th and 12th.
And this video will go up on, I believe, March 18th. So we should be good. Yeah. So when you're watching this, if it's before April, check it out.
Yeah. I'm also very, the other thing that I just really want to, I don't know who's watching this, but I'm like, I was frustrated with the lack of women in the community. So, and I feel like since I have a public face, I should do a shout out. If you're a woman in the community, please like either reach out to me. I promise I'll write back or something, or like post more, or just like comment. I feel like I just need to know that there are women in the community. It means a lot to me, and it's something that's been on my mind lately. It's not just lately, it's always on my mind. It's just, it popped up more lately. So I'm excited to connect with more women and see how I can, help people be more successful on Kaggle or do something. I'm not sure what, but just be connected would be good enough.
Yeah, open for opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Also, it may be relevant for some folks. There's some global meetups that are also in this space that are for women and minority genders. So Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, I know, has a bunch of different meetups. PyLadies, PY, which is for the Python programming language, and then R-Ladies, which is for the R programming languages. Also have lots of chapters. So that might be another good place to just.
I'm surprised that you mentioned PyLadies before R-Ladies.
I don't want to play favorite, so
You're so nice.
I am an R person. Those of you who have watched live coding know, and I run, or I'm a co-organizer of the Seattle R-Ladies meetup. So I'm very invested in R-Ladies, but also PyLadies is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so thank you so much for doing this today, Wendy.
Thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.